Ladies and gentlemen, director David Leitch.
That was like a old television show where they rehearsed it, and then now they get to do it again.
It was something they wouldn't actually do it if they didn't like the movie. We're gonna start with a few fun questions to warm you up.
All right.
What TV show would you love to guest direct?
Well, this is I think Better Call Saul is something I'd really like to, if anyone's a fan. I love Bob Odenkirk's work. I mean, I'm a huge Breaking Bad fan. I love that dark world. I love the comedy in it, and it'd just be really fun. I think that'd be a great one.
What movie have you seen the most?
Wow, that's really, there's a lot that come to mind. I would probably say the Big Lebowski, or it's going to be really embarrassing, Happy Gilmore. Come on. It's great. It's a great film. I do love it. No, there's a lot. I'd have to think. I mean, there are movies that I love to revisit, and those two. Obviously, it's funny. I'm an action guy, but I do love comedy, and those two comedies come to mind. And I'm a huge fan of the Coen Brothers. So anything that they do it's amazing. So,
what TV show have you watched all the way through more than once, if any?
What TV show? Mm-hmm. Oh, I grew up on MASH, so I think that watching the MASH and the reruns for years and years and years. That's probably dating me. Sorry.
You've obviously worked in the stunt business for a while. So what stunt or stunts have you seen recently that have really floored you? And you can't just say John Wick.
Damn it! Because I was going to say, I think that the sort of that opening first act in John Wick has some really great, compelling stuff that...
You talking about the first one or the third one?
No, the third one. The third one. Well, I love the first one.
Right, because I thought you were talking about your movie. I'm like, wait a minute. But the third one... No, but I think
the third one, that sort of gauntlet of gags that, Chad and the team came up with was really... friggin' impressive, and it's fun to see that stuff go down, and Keanu is one of those guys who'll get in there and do it, and it's really refreshing to see and fun to see.
Yeah, I think John Wick 3's what they did there is amazing. Yeah. Moving on, what's your favorite ride at Disneyland?
I couldn't tell you, man. I think it's a small world. Is that a good ride? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that works.
I don't spend a lot of time there, actually.
Something? I have learned that there are some people. I just learned that Chiwetel. How do you pronounce his last name? Yeah. So he just told me he's never been to Disneyland, and but I've met people that are saying they've never. Anyway, we're off on a tangent. Let's go further. What do you kellect?
What do I collect? Wow, I collect shoes. Tennis shoes? My Kelly McCormick is here. It's giving me answers. Producer Kelly McCormick, ladies and gentlemen, is here. Deadpool 2, Atomic Blonde, Hobbs Shaw, little movies that she does.
Also, his better half.
Yes, also my wife. But funny story, not funny story, real story. The reason I got the Atomic Blonde job at that time was called Cold as City. That was her movie. So nepotism works. She really fought for me to get that gig, and thank God, because that was really fun. Anyway, let's go.
So tennis shoes.
Tennis shoes, yeah. So I'm not wearing any tonight, but I do probably have more than I need.
Sure.
Yeah, and I don't play tennis that much.
They're comfortable.
So, they are. Yeah.
I want to jump backwards in your career real quick. A lot of people in here will know David from what he's directed recently, but you have a long history in Hollywood doing stunts. One of the things you did was, I think you doubled or did the stunts for Brad Pitt in Fight Club.
Yes.
Which is, yeah, see, exactly. A lot of...
Wow.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, because I love that movie, and you got to work with Fincher, and you worked with Brad.
Yeah, it was actually one of the sort of biggest moments in my stunt career early on. It sort of put me on the map. If you know anything about the movie business, it's all sort of once you're in, it's connections and making impressions and making relationships with people, and it was a really big opportunity. That being said, being on Fight Club, there was very little fighting. Really, when you look at the movie, there's very little fighting. So the the job of the stunt double in that movie was we were training the actors, we were choreographing these fights with Jared Leto at the time and Ed Norton, and we were working together with the stunt team, shooting rehearsals. And then, I think like the biggest gag I did on that movie was like climb a fence to pull out the fat stuff in the dumpster and maybe take some punches over the shoulder or something, because there wasn't a lot of stunts, but there was a stunt presence on that movie. And again, like being on that film for with those people, like watching Fincher work, watching Jeff Amata, the coordinator at the time, who became one of my mentors, work, and getting to work with Brad was really good. And I got to work with him on 4 or 5 other movies. It was a really great time. So
you also did stunts on 300.
Yes.
Which is...
Did a lot more stunts on 300.
Right. Maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
What do you... Because, that's another fantastic film. What do you remember from making that one?
That was another really sort of special time in choreography. And at that time, it was Chad and Damon Caro was... and myself were all sort of part of a group, and we were... choreographers. We had rented a facility. We were choreographing and shooting stuff. This thing we call stunt viz now that seems like everybody does, but we would shoot and edit our fight scenes. And Zach was really into that. So Damon had worked with Zach a lot, and we sort of built the support team around Damon, and we had, I think, 15, 20 stunt guys that played the Spartans around the main cast. And we had a training camp, which was 3 months in Montreal. We all, ate like this crazy diet, and we all trained our asses off, and we did choreography every day with the actors, and then we did weight training, and it was like, again, like this really beautiful time where we all got paid to, learn and grow. And I think some special choreography came out of that, and that's obviously a testament to Zach and his visual style, but it was also, people were ready for something more, graphic and fun and visceral, and we got the actors to do it. That's the thing. Like, if you look at the movies that Chad and I direct, we try to get the actors to do it and be involved, and to do that, you have to train them, and that was like one of our first sort of test cases in movies where we got to do that, and it paid off. You get to Gerard, killing a bunch of guys. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
We're almost at Hobbs and Shaw, I swear. I definitely want to touch on, you got to work with the Wachowskis.
A lot.
And I love the Wachowskis, and you worked on The Matrix. You worked on which ones, the second and third?
I worked on the second and third, yeah.
Right. So what did you take away from, because they're amazing, what did you take away from working with them that maybe impacted you as a director? Was that one of those experiences, or making those movies? Yeah,
I couldn't even begin to categorize what I took away. Because it was such an impressionist time of my life where I was really wanting to be a filmmaker, and they were allowing us to direct splinter units, and they really liked our stunt viz that I talked about earlier, and they were really encouraging us to go out there and do that stuff, and they would use it, and we'd have conversations, and we really became part of the creative family on those movies. And so many things I learned. I think really their passion for film, their discipline in storytelling, their composition, their use of color, and I think the biggest thing is the bold choices. I think you just swing for the fences and you do something. It's not like you fit into a box, you just break the box open. You reinvent the genre. And I think I've always tried to do it, Chad and I with John Wick. It was really, when we got the script, it was kind of like a programmer, like it's a thriller action thing. And we're like, how do we flip this thing on its head? And Atomic Blonde, when we were, Kelly and I were starting with it, it was really a Cold War thriller. If you look at the original, Coldest City, it's just a noir, not just a noir. And we're like, how do we flip it on its head? And I think with Hobbs and Shaw, not to segue, but, it's an 80s buddy action movie, but how do I contemporize it? And how do I make it fun? And how do I make it flip it on its head and like make it something else? And they taught me that because they make bold choices and they're not afraid. And I think as filmmakers, you have to be brave or you'll never get noticed,
What was cooler, directing all the things you've directed in the features or directing Celine Dion's music video?
Wow. Now I will say, like, that's a hard question because I think, I've always wanted.
We should let people know it's for the song "Ashes" from Deadpool 2.
Yeah. So we there's a lot of great stories, but the sort of like really beautiful moment was the first time we're there with all the cameras are set. We got like 5 cameras, classic music video style. The techno crane swooping around and like. She's going to sing the first time. Normally, they're just kind of lip syncing to the playback, but she wants to sing it the first time. And I remember, like, she sings the whole song through, and I couldn't yell cut, like, because I'm like a little verklempt, and like everyone's got goosebumps, and I just see like the dolly grip like keep swinging the crane, and there's a tear in his eye, and everyone's like, "What the hell's going on?" And they're like, "You gonna call cut now? You gonna call cut?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, better call cut." She's amazing, and there's a reason why she does what she does, and she has, they built a stage for her to do it in for years, and it was amazing experience.
You're thanked in the credits of Baby Driver.
Yes.
Why? Do you know?
Yeah, totally. I do. I am? Holy shit. No. So early on, Edgar Wright was had reached out to Chad and myself. Because he was really planning something special with that movie, and he had a very specific plan of like what he wanted to do editorially and action-wise and music-wise. So we had both gone to him and like we went in and had meetings with him and talked about the theory of action and like things that maybe we would do, and actually made the connection for Darren Prescott eventually to direct Second Unit with him. So. It was just more, having conversations with him about the action and as like filmmaker to filmmaker. And we're huge fans of his. I in particular like Hot Fuzz, probably one of those movies I've seen as much as Happy Gilmore. So I do love his stuff.
Yeah, he hasn't missed as a filmmaker. Is it true or not true? We're getting into Hobbs and Shaw now. Is it true or not true that Idris Elba would only do the movie if he had a song in the soundtrack?
No, that's not true. He was excited about it, though. He was really excited.
I'm totally teasing. Obviously, that wasn't the reason.
Like, absolutely not. I'm not doing it.
Well, how did he get in the soundtrack?
So we were on set one day, and it was actually early on in the shooting in London. In between takes, he's working on his iPad or some electronic device, and he's like, putting some beats down. He's got his headphones on, and then he like pulls his headphones off. He's like, "Hey, I'm writing a song for the movie. I got inspired. I've been working on my character. I got some ideas." And I'm like, "Great." And then a couple days later, he kind of does a little bit more of it. And he's like, "I'm going to play it for you when it's ready," but it's not ready. And then I'd see him over the next weeks. He would work on it. And then he told me, he's like, "I'm going to go to the studio. It's going to take me a week and I'm going to lay it down properly. And then I'm going to send you the demo." And no shit, he does it. He lays it down, sends me the demo, and it's just him on it. Cypress Hill was not on it yet. And I'm like, this is good, man. Like, this could really work. Like, I love it. It's hard for me to know yet because we got to wait till the movie's put together. And I have a lot of music in my movies, and they're sort of, I'm very particular, and I have a vision for them. So when a new song comes in, it's a little bit of like, let me rest on it. But then he went and got Cypress Hill on it, and he's like, "I'm going to continue to polish it. I'm going to continue to polish it." So when we got into post, he sent me the final version, and it was pretty quick where everyone was like, "Holy crap, this is a really great track." You hear it in the credits, but you also hear it in the car chase at the end of the CIA, sort of the descender sequence, the McLaren chase. That's the song that we dropped there, and it was easy. It was undeniable. But he was patient. He, he kept working on it, and that's how we got it in, I guess.
Sure.
And they really don't have that many songs from the artists in the Fast franchise end up in the movies. It's kind of rare. You think you have Tyrese and Ludacris, and they've had some, but it's not like it happens every time. So it's kind of cool when it all works out.
Most movies take like 2 years to make, beginning to end, sometimes longer. You made this, I believe you said, in 13 months?
Yeah, it was 13 months from beginning to end. We took the gig at, we were finishing post on Deadpool 2 when the opportunity sort of was presented, and there was a release date already, and you kind of look at that calendar and you go, wow, that is aggressive, and that's going to be hard, and that's going to be challenging, but there's also like a real opportunity here to do something special. And it's like, we had to look at each other and go, are you in? Are you in? And like, we're in. And so we said yes and dug in, but it was aggressive. And I think harder than physical production was post. The 22 weeks of post is, I don't wish that on anyone of a film this size. But again, it's just about the people you surround yourself with, and like, can you, you have the right people, they step up and they stay awake all night and they deliver. So,
what is it like? How did you get the project? Did someone at Universal call you? Like, what was that initial meeting like? And what is it like knowing that if I say yes to this is the next year or two of my life, and I'm sure you had other things that you were thinking about doing at the same time.
Yeah, I think this project was kind of interesting how it came to us, because I think I was really interested in like working again, on the heels of Deadpool, and this script had been around and they'd been looking for directors, and but we were looking at the landscape of stuff that was going to go right away. There wasn't a bunch of things that were going to go right away, and I think it was Kelly who sort of saw it out there, connected the dots and got us the draft, and we read it, and then it was that sort of moment of like, it's Hobbs and Shaw, like, their dynamic is really incredible, and the comedy that they generate and their sort of chemistry together is so fun. We could do something special, like throwback 80s buddy action movie and turn it on its head. And so when that opportunity sort of crystallized, it was pretty easy for us to say, we want to do this. And the talk with the studio was really easy at that point. I mean, we had other things even at the studio that were circling, but they wanted this. They were really supportive of me as a filmmaker to do something special with it and not have to be beholden to everything in the fast world, and that it had its own tone and it had its own sort of vision. And they were really like, we want you to do something different, but make sure it appeals to fast fans. That kind of thing, yeah.
So you get the script, you're looking at it, and you're like, okay, we're going to make the project. How much is what's on screen similar to what you were sort of given on that day? And how much is it sort of, you working with Chris and then Drew and, putting this thing together?
Oh, it's wildly different than that first draft. And that wasn't just me. Like, I mean, we had the script, and like Hobbs and Shaw are in it. A couple of the set pieces are there and the big ideas. But there was a lot of things that I wanted to do in terms of how these guys, how their world worked compared to the fast world. And we needed to like crack that stuff, like, again, like how they travel around, like, for example, the airport sequence, the TSA scene, like putting them in these situations where they could be at odds with each other was really important to me. And so we had to figure out that structure. Changing some of the set pieces was important to me just from an action standpoint. And then there's a lot on a movie like this. There's a lot of people that need to put their stamp on it as well. Jason was, we're reinventing him in this new incarnation as a hero. So we had to build him out in a different way. There's a lot of things that had to be addressed that weren't on the page. We sort of just jumped right in. He's a hero. Hobbs was going to take on an evolution from who he was in the fast world. And we're sort of like gearing him we're going to drop him into the spy world. So there was a lot of work to be done. And, but luckily everybody sort of got on board and knew that these bones are great and the premise is great and there's some great set piece ideas, but how do we make this even better? And how do we make it work for all these people that are on board and signing away their life for a year? So
yeah, making every actor say yes. You know?
Yes. Yeah. In a polite way, yeah.
So listen, the action's great, but my favorite bits are in this movie are all the scenes of Dwayne and Jason insulting each other. Like, that stuff is fantastic, and it's really funny. So what is it like writing those scenes, and how much is being figured out? Like, just talk about crafting those scenes.
It's funny. I mean, again, like, that is honestly what drew me and us to the material. There was a great scene in the original script, which was like the opening pages of them. They were bickering and fighting in a garage or whatever, and that dialogue that Chris Morgan had written was priceless, and we still repurposed a lot of those insults back into the new CIA office where we first meet them. So that's, again, like, that was the DNA of the script that lived. Working with those guys moving forward, like building out that comedy was kind of simple in a way. I mean, they both would come to set with really particular ideas of, like, a list of insults. It wasn't like a lot of improv on set. It was more like they had been sitting at home fuming, thinking, like, how am I going to insult this guy in front of me? In a good way, kind of like how you're going to, get one over on your best friend. And so it was really fun, like, getting him that first day in the CIA office. That was the first time that we had Dwayne on set, actually. We'd shot with Jason for a week before that. And it was a little stressful. We had the script pages out, cameras are ready to go, but everyone took a break, have the crew leave. Let's run the pages to see how the dynamic works. And the first insult out of the mouth is, Harry Potter voice and those two lines. And you're like, people are already like laughing behind the monitor, and you're like, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. And so leaning into that dynamic was really important, and finding opportunities to do more of it was the goal.
You are allowed in a PG-13 movie one F-bomb, and you get both of them to say it. So was that always the plan, to use that F-bomb in that sequence? Was there ever a thought of putting it somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, that was the only way I could have walked out of that movie alive. I think that, we wanted to make sure that everybody got Hobbs and Shaw got a fair play in everything that we did. It was really important to me that the characters were balanced, and that, this movie was both of theirs. And that was sort of like the pinnacle moment, like, who gets to say, fuck in the movie? Well, they both have to say it, because really, how else are we going to do it? And it led us to a really special moment, where we'd come up with the split screen idea of introducing these characters in sort of that fun visual way, and then to repay that off with the split screen where they both say, no fucking way. It was really landed well. And the MPAA said yes, so that was good, because we weren't sure they were gonna. So we rolled the dice on that one, because we didn't really have an out. Like, shit, if they don't say yes, then I guess we cut that out. Like, I don't know.
Well, technically, it's just one word.
Yeah.
So
it's said by two people.
Exactly. Where did the line "Black Superman" come from, and how? And talk about casting Idris, because he's, it's Idris.
Well, I'll throw my drama into the ring on that whole Black Superman thing, because I know there's two opposing stories out there. Dwayne says he came up with it. Idris feels it was improv. We were moving so fast on this movie, and like it's hard to know like who came up with that idea. Honestly, it could have been Idris improv. It could have been Dwayne. We were trying to figure out a solution for this joke that we were pitching, which was the Black James Bond. That was going to be the line. Look at me, I'm like the Black James Bond. That was the line, and we were kind of looking for alts, and it was either Idris riffed it or Dwayne riffed it and came up with it. So there's opposing stories. I don't know. All I know is when he said it on camera, everyone got fired up, and we're like, that's in the movie. But you wanted me to talk about Idris casting?
Yeah.
That could be possibly one of the coolest moments in my life. Like, walking into the Soho House and where I was meeting him in London, and like seeing him sitting in a corner, and he's like, hey man, you're like, oh man, it's Idris Elba. Like, I'm going to go say hi to this guy. Like, we're buds, right? This is so cool. He's so cool, right? And you go up and he's like, oh man, I really love your work. Like, I'm really excited. Let's talk about this character. And from the beginning, we had a real easy relationship, and it was a really great conversation about what he wanted to do in this movie with what he had in front of him in terms of what the character was. And at that time, it wasn't as layered as we ended up making it. You know, we knew we wanted to make someone who had some heightened powers that could take on these two sort of larger than life, you know, heroes, and he was down with that. But he wanted to make sure that we added an element of humanity. And so we went back and forth of like, how do you make Brixton diabolical but also empathetic? And that led us to some really cool discoveries about how the director works in the world and like where Idris's character is at the end of the movie. It was really great working with him. I mean, he had just done directing his own film, so I think he was in a really good place to, collaborate closely with the director and also empathize with me. Like there was a lot of moving parts on this movie, and it was good to have someone in the back just like calm and like, I've been there, on a smaller scale, but, and never, getting upset about anything, just like in it, how do we make it better? So yeah, he's so cool, I have to say. He is the coolest guy on the planet. Not only the sexiest, but probably the coolest guy on the planet.
Obviously, you have a history with stunts, and stunts are a huge part of your life.
Yes.
What will it take to get stunts the respect/award stuff that they deserve?
I honestly don't know, and I think that it has been really, it's been really odd, like especially the last sort of like 5 or 6 years, that you see the push for the Academy to recognize stunts, and they just keep turning it down, and you don't feel like the voices are heard, and the forces are mobilizing and like trying to get the awareness out there, but it's really kind of like sad, Every department that works on a movie in physical production is recognized, and so there's one time every year that every single department head gets to celebrate, and all your friends on set are celebrating except the stunt department. Movies like Mad Max or Fast and Furious. So you saw the credits, you guys sat through them. Thank you. That's a lot of stunt people that give a lot of their blood, sweat, and tears to making this movie great, and it's really odd that they can't find a way to recognize them. And I don't know when it's going to happen. And it's, I'm going to do everything I can to at least get it out there and like maybe mobilize, directors, and I know that Quentin is doing something in front of the movie. I heard that there's a promotion for, to recognize stunts in front of the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, though, is maybe people are not sure what to nominate, whether it be like the person who designs the stunt, the actual performer. Maybe it needs to be two different things. I mean, I'm just throwing out, just being like, who gets the credit?
Yeah, and I think that, there is no, but that can be figured out with a conversation. I mean, SAG, SAG does it. We have Best Ensemble Award, Best Stunt Ensemble. So you're not recognizing just the coordinator. You're recognizing everyone who was involved in stunts. The coordinator takes the award, but it doesn't put the coordinator on a pedestal, because honestly, stunts, like most departments, it's like very, very collaborative, and you need like the performers to actually do the stuff that you design. So yeah, I think giving it to a coordinator is open for discussion, but giving it to the ensemble makes sense to me. But again, like we should be at least having those conversations with the Academy, and like, maybe there's multiple categories, and not a lot, but like,
no, I fully agree.
Yeah, and though I don't think it's part of the confusion, I think there's some other stumbling block with the Academy that I'm not quite clear on.
I don't want to reveal specifics because of spoilers, but I do want to talk about, there are some interesting cameos in this movie. Without getting into specifics, I'm curious were they easy to pull off? Was it hard? Was it, because it's been under wraps. Movies, coming out tomorrow, and people don't know.
Tomorrow, holy shit.
Yeah.
I got to get home. No, I'm just kidding. That's great. That's so cool. Look, in terms of like, they were honestly relatively easy, and I think that that's a testament to Dwayne and hopefully myself that people would want to come out and have fun in this world. But the goal of it was to push the tone in the direction that I was hoping for this universe going forward. We had such a great dynamic between Hobbs and Shaw, and there was such fun and chemistry and comedy that I wanted to make sure that we had other components of that within the movie so it didn't feel atonal. And who better to bring on than the people we were to get? And wow, like so fortunate. But again, like it was where I really had a vision to take this franchise. And hopefully it works for the audience. And then we will, hopefully there's a promise of it moving forward, and that construct would be great.
When I saw the film for the first time, the audience went crazy. I was not in here when the first cameo happened. I'm assuming you guys all laughed your ass off, because it's really
it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's really funny.
That guy.
Yeah, he's an a-hole for being that talented. So before I open it up to the audience, how much are you figuring out the way you're going to shoot things before you get to set, and how much is it in the moment you're looking at what you have and you're pulling out and you're working with your DP to figure out, how you're going to shoot a sequence? And I'm not talking about the action. I mean, the stuff between Jason and Dwayne on the plane when they're insulting each other. How much is that figuring it out in the moment?
Well, we had talked about having Jonathan Sella here. Unfortunately, he was out of town because I thought it would have been really fun.
His DP.
Yeah, DP that I've worked with since John Wick. But we are really particular, and I think you can probably tell sometimes by our composition, it's pretty planned. I mean, we were a little bit more fluid on this because of just the nature of the movie and the voices and the changes with all the dynamics that go on in a big studio movie with a lot of personalities. We had to react. But example of that scene on the plane, we'd shot listed it, 3 weeks before, and we knew all our angles, and we now have we have a very close relationship. We have a second language, really, how we talk, but we knew it was a matter of 6 setups and where the cameras are going to be and what lenses we're going to use. We're really particular that way. But again, we're also good with having to be spontaneous, but I like having a plan. I say the best plan we had, Kelly can attest to this, on Atomic Blonde, we had the entire movie shot listed and color coded, and she was always so proud of that because she's on this one it was a little bit more of a chaotic thing for a producer. Are you going to make your day? How's it going to work? How's this going to happen? We're on Atomic Blonde. We knew everything was color coded for visual effects or crane or Steadicam. Because on a movie like that with less resources, if you only needed the crane one day, you only brought it one day. Here, you have the crane every day because it's that type of movie and you don't know what's going to happen and you need it and it's big and scopy, and so we're planned.
I was going to say, I think Fincher said that one of the reasons he doesn't do a lot of crane shots, or I forget exactly what he said, but it's basically I would rather have all that money for an overtime, thing.
It's true. I mean, they get, that stuff adds up. All that equipment, if you look at just a crane, bringing an extra operator, bringing someone to operate the remote head, it's all of a sudden 3 people and the rental on the thing and then the delivery. It's a 3-day rental. And you guys know who are filmmakers, that all that money counts. And so on a big movie like this, that money doesn't have as much impact in the bigger scope of the budget. But on a small movie, it means everything. And you really have to be planned. So it's kind of great that I got to do some smaller movies, not only as a director, but even in the second unit space coming up. How do I shoot this with one camera and,
Yeah, we haven't even opened the door on all of his second unit stuff, which is a whole nother thing. Yeah. But where is the catch box? Wait, who has it? So that is the magical thing for asking. You want to throw it at people instead of us? Or do you want to throw it at people?
No, you guys can. I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to get sued.
I say this is a lawsuit. Let's start right there. So the top is the. Speak into the top.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. So you mentioned how.
I'm sorry. What's your name?
Oh, I'm Kim.
Hey, Kim.
Hi. You mentioned how as a director you have to be brave. So I just wanted to see from you, like, what are some of the bravest moments you've had to take in your career?
In terms of being a director?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I mean, look, that's sort of, then you're kind of like patting yourself on the back, like, hey, I'm so brave. Look at what I did. But I think that the idea with Lorraine Broughton in Atomic Blonde, where we did the single camera, one shot for 7-8 minutes, was kind of brave for that time. I think people had done it, and it wasn't like we were reinventing the wheel. But for me, first time out, I wasn't co-directing. We needed to make a bold choice. I wanted to hang that moment on a great actor and stay with them. And I knew that that's what would get me through this scene. And so if you could just like stay with Charlize, rip out all the score, just be in the sound design, and like make this provocative, bold choice. There were no editorial outs, by the way. And Kelly can attest to this. Like, the focus was always sort of prodding us. They were super supportive, but they're prodding, like, maybe just one out. Like, maybe you could cut it at the stairwell if we wanted to. Like, what if we tested it and it was too violent? And we were just like, no. And so that was a bold choice. And I have to say that was, again, like, having a producer that inspires you to do those things and take those risks is really important, because that was Kelly's idea. Like, she's like, you've been trying to do this one shot for years. Here's the time. The budget's small. You're going to have the control. Figure it out. And man, a lot of logistics went into that, but it paid off. Like, it's the most memorable scene in that movie. And without that moment, I don't think the film would have got as recognized, sort of in the action space. So
that shot is, it's fucking awesome.
Thank you. It's, I love it. It's great. Yeah. And so.
It really is. Where are we? Let's see. Did you have a question? Yeah. Oh, then let's go right there.
My name is Cameron. In the mid-'90s, how you doing, man? I joined this place called Minnesota Martial Arts Academy.
Shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Really?
This little
in the mid-'90s?
Yep. Brooklyn Center.
Yes.
And you were sitting on a couch.
Really? That's amazing.
Casting couch. No, but and just you were an instructor at the time.
Okay.
I think you cornered my friend Akbar Mohammed.
Really?
Okay. A couple months ago. Anyways.
Okay.
So to see where your career started from there to where you are today, man, it's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Greg Nelson, who obviously is a huge friend of mine, he still has his martial arts school now in a better,
epic,
massive facility, and training great fighters, and that was a really formidable, time in my life, and that's cool, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's tripping me out right now.
Absolutely.
Freaking out right now.
Absolutely. I just had a quick two-part question. What was the best takeaway from second unit when you got into directing? And the second part of that is, what was wisdom gained when you got in the director's chair moving forward?
Well, I think it's I can answer it probably with the one answer, and it is, directing second unit, you're presented with all these challenges logistically, like we were just talking about budget. You're dealing with different size movies, you're dealing with different directors, and you're getting to watch everybody's style, and you're getting to see a lot of times their problems and the mistakes they made, because second unit's often called to fix them. You're like, oh shit, well, second unit will clean it up. And you're like, how did we get here? You're like, oh, that's why. And so you've really presented with, like, oftentimes the mistakes that were made, and you're finding solutions. So going into directing first unit, in terms of like the logistics of making a movie, you've seen a lot of pitfalls, and you can anticipate those, and you can, not make them. So, and you can deliver action on different size budgets because you've had that experience. So,
awesome.
Thanks, man.
Wait, I want to throw that thing. We should, unless you have a. We should throw it somewhere. Is anyone? We'll throw it. Hold on. I want to go far. Is anyone over there? All right, then let's just go right there. I'll be good.
There it is. Football.
Let's throw it.
Oh.
That did not throw. So people who are watching this, there's a what is that, like a puffy ball?
It's like a pillow.
Yeah, it's
with a microphone.
with a microphone.
My name's Ryan. Just want to know who is a bigger diva, The Rock or Jason Statham?
Wow. That is a great provocative question that I could get in a lot of trouble for answering. Honestly, they're not. On set, these guys come in and they want to work. I'd worked with Jason for a long time on movies as a second unit director, as a choreographer, even as a stuntman. He threw me out of a bus window in The Mechanic. So we go way back, way back. But they don't have that diva presence on set. They're sort of journeyman action guys and great professionals, and they show up to work and they treat the crew with respect. And Dwayne is just this sort of font of positivity when he shows up, and like wants to make sure that everyone's sort of taken care of, and the actors are being supported, and how we building up the other cast, and he's great. So
Who would win in a fight?
Another follow-up question. Again, I wouldn't want to put my money on either one of them, right? Because I think they're going to fight to the death, and you might just have to call the morgue. So no, they're both obviously incredible athletes and super tough in their own right. So
Right on.
I don't know. Who do you think?
Rock's taking Statham.
I think that in a day or two you should go to Collider and watch a supercut that this guy is currently cutting, which includes things that you might enjoy.
Guys.
I promise you, I did the junket, and I promise you something fun is coming that involves exactly what you want to know.
Yes.
Let's throw right down here. Wait. Actually, no. We're not throwing there because it's near the cameras.
I'm going
Let's
blue
go right.
shirt. Blue
We'll
shirt
get
right here.
there.
You got. I'm throwing it to you, guy. You got to turn around.
Okay.
All right. Good. Teamwork. That's it. Just like Hobbs and Shaw. Teamwork, guys.
Glad I didn't drop
We
it.
can save the world. We come together.
I like the way they continued on the theme of family, which is obviously prevalent throughout the whole Fast and Furious franchise. Was there ever a discussion about including Owen Shaw, or was that just too logistically difficult? Obviously, there's a lot going on in the script already, and bringing the actors together.
Yeah, again, you guys are so good because you kind of answer your own questions, which is great. But I think that we were. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just being honest, because that was really what happened. Like, we had so much story to carry, and like it was really, and we wanted to give space for Vanessa's character Hattie to really have, life. And so I think it was really just a conscious decision at some point, like, we'll focus on one sibling for this time out. We still had the backstory with Brixton and Idris on the Shaw side. So there's a lot of narrative going on, and thinking of adding, the sort of Luke's character would have, maybe been a bridge too far, but we make reference to him in the promise that he'll be obviously in the Shaw world, and we'd love to have him. At least I would. And there's a flashback scene where we have young Owen, but people kind of miss him because the explosion's going off and the money's in the air, and you see a kid in the back and he's like doing this, but he's there. And Helen's character obviously mentions him, but it was really just too much story for us to say, like, let's give Vanessa her moment.
I actually missed that, so that's an Easter egg.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be. It's just a lot of smoke, I think. But yes, it was an Easter egg. Yeah.
Things I didn't know.
Yes.
Let's go right there.
Stole my box. Hi, I'm Tori.
Hi, Tori.
I'm going to try and say this in a non-spoiler way.
I like that.
But I noticed in this movie there's a lot of moments when you see Hobbs and Shaw kind of confronting the mistakes they've made in their past. And obviously this one focuses a lot on family.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you were going to continue with that trend in the future of them seeing their mistakes and trying to fix them, because it seems like something big might be coming up for one of them.
Yeah, I know what you're leaning into, and I think that that is part of our journey with Shaw, in a sense. Like, he started in the franchise as a villain. It was easier for Hobbs. He started in the franchise as a hero. So we needed to make sure that we spend time in the narrative to understand his backstory, see him connect with his family, gain empathy with these, the audience, see his humanity. And I think, Jason stepped up and took risks as an actor and played vulnerable moments with Vanessa and played vulnerable moments with Helen. And like that I had never seen him do in a long, long time. So we could start to take that road back. And there's a line in the movie where he says, I have to make amends for things that I've done, and we plan on doing that. And it was just, again, like so much story to tell, buffing out Hobbs' world, buffing out Shaw's world, striking a pose tonally for what we wanted to do. There was, only so many places we could go. So I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I know, yeah. It's been, yeah,
Thank you.
I want to jump
Yeah.
into it, but let's go right there.
Hey, David.
Hey.
My name's Vaughn. I'm
Vaughn.
an up-and-coming film editor, and every
Great.
time I watch a new movie, I try to look for filmmakers that inspire me editorially. Your movies are like the coolest crap, man. Like so good. Like you're like the coolest
man.
filmmaker, one of the coolest working
Thank
today,
you.
man. And you talk about like being brave as a filmmaker. You also directed Deadpool 2, and I've always wanted to know this. Logan had just come out. And then the opening of that Deadpool 2 movie, you have a music box that is recreating the scene of that iconic ending. So whose idea was that? And please tell me somebody has that music box at their house because I want it.
I don't know, but if I had to guess who had it, it's probably Ryan Reynolds.
How fun was that to make, man? 'Cause
Or the
that's so
Fox
great.
prop department. I don't know. That's from the Twisted Mind of Ryan. I mean, that was a really,
Yeah.
that's a, I even was sort of, what's funny is I had just done additional photography with James Mangold on the death scene of Logan. And so we'd done, and he brought me out, we did some choreography. I was there as a friend, and 8711 guys were there, and we did some choreography for that last little fight around the truck and the death again. And so it was funny, like, 4 months later, I'm sitting on set, and we have this little clay model of Logan impaled on a tree, and it's just like, I was there working on it.
And it spins with the
With
music.
James,
Oh,
and
my-
we're friends, and and it's spinning, and that's, Ryan has such a great sensibility about, like, these odd things that you're going to find. I mean, my first impression was, I don't know if this is going to work. And then, you're sitting on set watching it happen, and then you're like, shit, this is gold.
Brilliant.
It's gold. So,
Yep.
yeah, I give that all to Mr. Reynolds.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Let us bring it behind, right up there.
Hello, I'm
Hey.
Jack. Nice to meet you.
Hey, John.
Great movie.
Thanks, man.
I loved it. Have you ever, has an idea or anything in a script ever come to you that you thought was, like, you looked at someone else and said, that's absolutely impossible, we can't do that, and then ended up doing, like, what's one of the most difficult challenges you've ever had for a stunt?
It's a hard question because, I think that,
I mean, they all look pretty hard, but I'm just,
No, they're all like mind-numbingly hard. Like I can't, I think the idea, I'll give you this anecdote about the cars suspended from the helicopter. So that was an idea that came in late in the game. We'd already landed in Hawaii. We had like 6-7 weeks of shooting left. And we had some resources where I had the stunt team. We're all on the island. We could splinter off. Like I could get all the lead-ups for this great action, we can expand this sequence, and the studio was interested in it. I was interested in it, but it's like, and they're like, well, if you do it, can you do some big iconic idea that's sort of like Fastian, right? And we're like, okay. And so putting together the chains of cars with, honestly, 2 weeks of prep with special effects, visual effects cranking out a previs, storyboard artists, drawing crazily, after shoot meetings with stunts, practical effects, the producers, the studio, budgeting that little bit, getting the extra money to do it, was crazy. And then effects building rigs to, drive the cars on 2 wheels. Like, so it feels like they're suspended. So you're driving a truck, and then you have a stunt driver driving another truck on 2 wheels with a little sort of proxy wheel behind him to make it look like it's being suspended from the Black Hawk. Then working with the Black Hawk pilot to choreograph, the exact distance of what the chain would be from that truck to here with a helicopter pilot filming the whole thing. Yeah, in like 3 weeks of prep for that moment while we're shooting. So there's a whole unit like prepping that sequence because we came up with the idea. And I don't know, that's probably the craziest thing we ever decided to do.
I wonder that first conversation you have where you pitch it to that person, be it a producer. I just am curious what that relationship's like, where you come up with this crazy idea and say, "Oh, well, we want to suspend all these cars off a cliff." I'm just curious.
Well, I guess in the fast world they're kind of used to it because they're like, he's chasing a submarine in the last one, right? But so they were kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah. This is what we do in the fast world. But there was also, they also knew it was me, and they were like, oh shit, he's gonna try and do some of this stuff. Whereas like in the fast world, they do some epic practical stuff, and Spiro, who shoots their second unit, does some incredible stuff. But there was oftentimes the CG and the stunts aren't integrated in the way that I was hoping they could be. And so we really tried to do a lot of that in that sequence for the time and the resources that we had. And so challenging effects to build cars that drive on two wheels is pretty crazy in 3 weeks. So, yeah. And a bold move. Thank you very much. That's how you make good movies.
Right. All interconnected. But listen, I'm sure Dwayne was like, oh, wait, I'm going to be able to pull a helicopter with a chain. Yeah, we're filming this.
He was in. And he did like the idea of you be hanging off over the cliff. And there was a lot of things like, and some of the key frames, and you send them to marketing. A movie like this, there's a lot of, marketing that they support it. And they go, we love that idea. Let's, let's do it. And they're like, we support it. And so a machine like this, that means a lot.
Where is that going to, let's throw it right over there.
You ready? Hello.
Hey.
Hey, my name is Laquan.
Hey, Laquan.
And how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I was wondering, Vanessa Kirby, what kind of, could you talk about her prep for all the action that she
Yeah.
Yeah.
First and foremost about Vanessa, she's a wonderful person, but she's also an incredible actress. And I've said this before a lot of times in interviews. I never go wrong when you bet on a great actor. And she came in and, like all good actors, wants to deliver a real physical performance to bring her character to life, not only the dramatic stuff that she obviously can do, with her eyes closed. And so she was really excited to get to do action. And I pitched her like, hey, she was concerned, mission. She got to train, but she didn't get to do as much. A lot of it didn't come to screen. And she was hoping that it wasn't going to happen the same way. And I said, it isn't. Like, you're going to go through the training like we did we do with all our actors, like we do with Keanu or we did with Charlize. And when you come out the other end, I'm going to film it because it's going to be great. And she had an aptitude and she was able to do a lot more than we thought. And we looked for opportunities to put her in more action bits as we went along just because she was that good. So hats off to her. I think she does an incredible job in this movie. And she's created a really compelling character for us. So.
Whose idea was it for that sequence with the one arm with Dwayne? Because that's awesome when he's just,
Yeah, that's like the choreography team. I had I had some great stunt guys together for the choreography, and when they were building out that sequence, that was one of the things they pitched me, and I'm like, that's awesome. It's a great Hobbs defining moment. When you design fight scenes, obviously you want to design them around character, and you can see in that one, we're really sort of defining all three characters actually, because you're intercutting Shaw in the apartment. And Hattie's fighting like him, and you're seeing their relationship. And then you're seeing sort of this blossoming relationship with Hattie and Hobbs as they're sort of flirting while they're fighting. And, and then you see like his strength move and her relentless nature. And there's a lot of things going on that you're learning about the characters that people just don't think they're getting from a scene, but they're actually absorbing it. And that's why those scenes work.
Totally. I think we have time for one more question, so I'm putting that out there. Does someone have something good? Wait, we see it. We see the hand. Hold on. We're going to throw to the first row. Let's not hit anyone. It's a team effort.
All right, so this is kind of like a two-parter. I'm Mike. I was here for Deadpool.
Hey, Mike.
Good to see you.
Awesome.
Again.
Good to see you.
It was a great Q&A.
Thank you.
Maybe you both can answer this.
Kelly should answer it. She looks like she's ready to answer.
So, when you guys are producing together and directing, how do you guys deal with like the stress and when you guys get into like do you guys ever get into disagreements on set or and like how do you balance all that? Because
yes,
yeah, please share and enlighten at least a few people in here. Thank you.
Go ahead. No, come on. No, really. I'll start, and then you can add in. So, I just have so much respect for Kelly as a producer, and honestly, for where I am in the business. Before we were married, she represented Chad and I. She was our manager, and then our friendship sort of grew out of that, and we became really close. And we love the movie business, and we love telling stories. And I have so much respect for her, obviously, as a storyteller and someone who understands story and character. And so, creatively, there's never a really problem. I think the filmmaker's job is always to push the box, but you always need the responsible, eyes to production, pushing it down. But I don't know. I think it's just our respect for each other. What do you think?
Yeah, I succeeded on this one, didn't I? Like it's so bananas.
She's like, I couldn't.
Oh yeah, I kept you in a box on this.
You
one.
kept me in a box. We made it for whatever it was, like all that money, but I didn't spend a dime more than whatever it was.
No.
But you're not just a numbers producer, and that's the thing. It's like I need again, like to surround myself with creative input and people I trust, because the job has so many responsibilities that you want to have that team that you can rely on and support you. So.
I will say he's the most collaborative director I've ever worked with and continue to work with, which is, I think, not just because I'm his wife, but because he is so versed in production from growing up in a lot of directors just show up and haven't done a lot of time on set and understand the different departments and collaborations and things that need to happen. And he's particularly aware. So if I sit there and go it's going to be your decision or somebody else's. So here's what I know about the landscape, and you can be creative in these ways. And they're going to demand these kinds of things. And so help him make the choices so that they're not made for him, if that makes sense. Because it actually allows him to be more creative, I would say. And I try to do that with all my directors, but they don't quite see it, or maybe they don't trust me as much as he does. I don't know.
But I think we have a pretty good record, so I think it works. So I don't want to go anywhere else. So.
I agree.
I don't want to go anywhere else for my producer. Thank you. Or my wife.
Right.
I love you.
And that is definitely a good way to say. So again, I want to reiterate a huge thank you to IMAX and Universal for being awesome partners. A huge thank you to David Leitch for doing the Q&A tonight and letting us show the movie early. And obviously, if you enjoyed the movie, please go on social media and spread the love. Just don't reveal spoilers.
Yes. And guys, thanks for sitting through it and watching it. And yes, please spread the word. We got a lot of money to make back, according to Kelly.
Right.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank
It's
you all
been fun. I love this.
For coming out.